Solving One-Step Equations, Lesson 2-2, the Integrated 1 series. In today's lesson, students will learn how to solve one-step equations by using the inverse operation of addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. So today should be a review of solving one-step equations, and we're also going to present some more challenging problems that you are going to have to solve. So remember that an equation has an equal sign. It has a what? Equal sign. And there's also going to be coefficients, which are numbers, and variables, which are letters. Okay, so to solve one-step equations, what you have to do is isolate the letter. Another vocabulary term for letter is variable. Okay, so you're going to have a letter in these. You're going to isolate the variable by using the inverse operation. Okay, and you've all heard the word operation in order of operation, right? You have what? Addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. This is a bridge map, and a bridge map is designed to show relationships. So let's talk about inverse operations. So if I ask you, what is the inverse of addition? The inverse of addition is what? It is, what is it? Subtraction, that's right. Okay? All right, so just like addition is the inverse of subtraction, also multiplication is the inverse of what? What goes here? What? Is division. That's right. Okay. So when we solve one-step equations, we're going to be using inverse to isolate the variable. So now we're going to write these examples down in our notes so that when you see them in your homework, you will know how to do them. And if you forget how to do these, you can go back to the video and rewatch it before you do your homework. Okay, so let's take a look at this. This says that C minus 22 equals 54. That means that some number, we don't know what it is, if you subtract 22 from it, it should give you 54, okay? When you're solving equations, you need to first identify what the variable is. What is the variable, by the way? It's the letter. It's the what? It's the letter, okay? So in this case, the variable is C. So what I want you to do, I solve these equations in a special way, and I think it will help you, is I want you to circle the variable. So the first thing I'm going to do is circle C. Are we good? The second thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw an upside down T through the equal sign. What that does is it separates both sides of the equation, okay, where the equal sign is. Because when you're solving this, you have to do the inverse operation. And whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other side, right? Okay, so we look at C and we ask ourselves, what's next to C? It's negative 22, right? Or you're subtracting 22. So what is the opposite of subtracting 22? Or negative 22. It's positive 22. So we're going to add 22 to both sides. Okay. Negative 22 and positive 22 make 0. Then we're going to bring down the C, and C will equal 54 plus 22, which is, what is it? It is 76. Okay, you're going to box your answer like that. Now, if you substitute 76 back in the place of C, it should give you a true statement. If I say 76 minus 22, does it give me 54? And it does. So 54 equals 54, and that is a true statement. Okay? Let's take a look at number 2. And it's a little bit different because this time your answer is on the left side. Where is it? It's on the left side, and it says negative 12 equals P minus 16. Let me ask you a question. What's the variable in this equation? What's the variable in this equation? It's the letter P. So we're going to circle it. And then we're going to separate both sides of the equation by drawing an upside down T. Okay? All right. So let me ask you then, Are you going to add 12 to both sides, or are you going to add 16 to both sides? What do you think? What do you think? Okay, you're going to add 16. Why? You need to look at the number that is closest to this variable here. And you need to basically move it to the other side. To move it to the other side, we have to do the inverse, right, of negative 16, which is, what's the opposite of negative 16? It's positive 16. So we're really moving it over by adding it to both sides, okay? Negative 16 and positive 16 make 0. We're going to bring down p, and p will equal a negative 12 and a positive 16. These are integers with different signs. You're going to remember different signs subtract. Keep the sign of the higher number, then you'll be exact. Remember that? No? Maybe you haven't heard that before? Okay. If you have different signs, you're going to subtract them. 16 minus 12, that's really what it's saying. And the bigger sign is positive, so the answer is 4. Now, let me ask you a question. Is 4 equals p the same as p equals 4? Are they the same? They are. It's called the reflexive property, okay? So your answer is p equals 4. Write that down. Now let's apply the same thing to these equations, which have fractions. Dun, dun, dun. I don't know why people are so afraid of fractions. They're less than a whole number. Get it? Okay. Anyway, yes, I know fractions are very scary, but we're going to do them. Let's go. This says 3/4 equals w plus 2/5. All right. So, again, the variable is w. So let's circle w, and let's make our upside down t. We're going to leave a little bit more room this time. Okay. What number is next to w? It's positive 2/5, or you're adding 2/5. Well, we need to do the inverse of that. So what is the opposite of positive 2/5? It is what? It's negative 2/5. So we're going to subtract 2/5 from both sides. Check this out, okay? 2/5 minus 2/5 is 0, okay? Now w is going to equal, I'm going to go ahead and write it horizontally, 3/4 minus 2/5. Okay, now we're going to have to subtract fractions with different denominators. One is in fourths and one is in fifths. Can you do that? No, you need a common denominator. Let me show you a very nice shortcut. Are you ready? It's called the butterfly method. Maybe you have, maybe you haven't seen it before. To make common denominators, you multiply the denominators together. And then, what is 4 times 5? 4 times 5 is 20. Okay. And then what you're going to do is you're going to cross multiply. Go this way first. What is 3 times 5? 3 times 5 is 15. That's your numerator on the left. What is 4 times 2? That is 8. That's your numerator on the right. And remember, you're subtracting that. Okay? So when you subtract fractions, we got the common denominator. It's still 20. But now we have to subtract the numerator. So what is 15 minus 8? It is 7/20. So 7/20 will equal W. Can you simplify 7/20? No, it is in simplest form. Let's take a look at number 4, okay? We're going to do the same thing. This says 2/3 plus r equals negative 4/9. So let's circle the variable. What's the variable? It's r. We're going to make a t on both sides, all right? Now, what should we subtract from both sides? What should we subtract? Because what is next to r? Isn't it 2/3? We're trying to move 2/3 over here so we can get r by itself. So we're going to subtract 2/3. Okay. 2/3 minus 2/3 is 0. Bring down r. Now let's take a look at what this says. It says negative 4/9 minus 2/3. Okay, so if you want to use the butterfly method, you could. But 9 and 3, it's very simple. Their common denominator is going to be 9. You know that, right? Because if you just multiply 2/3 by 3/3, you would get an equivalent fraction of what? What's 2 times 3 is? 6. 3 times 3 is 9. Those are equal, okay? And remember, that's negative. All right, and then we have our original fraction here, which is negative 4/9. Great. Do they have common denominators? Yes, we know that they're 9. So let's subtract the numerators. The tricky thing here is you have a negative 4 and a negative 6. Okay? What do you think negative 4 and negative 6 make together? Same signs. They have same signs. They're both negative, right? You say same signs, add and keep. So add them together because they're both negative. And you would get 10, but you're going to keep that negative over 9. Now, negative 10 over 9, you could basically say, well, 9 goes into 10 one time with 1/9 left over, and that would be negative. So both of those are acceptable answers for what r equals. Okay? Go ahead and get that down. Now we're going to take a look at some equations that do have fractions, but what's happening is you're going to have a variable that is being divided by a number that's either going to give you a fraction or a whole number, okay? Now for these problems, you do not need, I repeat, do not need to circle the variable or draw the t, okay? The reason why you don't need to do that is because you are solving equations by multiplying, okay, both sides. So if I say that c is being divided by 4 to give you negative 9/8. What is this number? Look at the denominator. Look at the what? What's this called? It's called the denominator. What is it? It's 4. Okay? All right. So this really is c has a little 1, a visible 1 attached to it. Okay? This really is talking about 1/4. All right? So what you do is you have to multiply both sides by the reciprocal. So if I ask you what's the reciprocal of 1/4, what would you say? Just flip it, right? It's 4 over 1, right? So if you multiply this side by 4, you also have to multiply this side by 4. And what happens is that the 4s, this is saying 4 divided by 4, these cross cancel, you're left with c equals. Now you have to do negative 9 times 4. And remember, we said that the reciprocal really is 4 over 1, if that makes you more comfortable multiplying fractions. You do top times top and bottom times bottom. Negative 9 times 4 is negative what? It's negative 36 divided by 8, okay? And if we want to, we can leave our answer this way. This is called an improper fraction, where the top is bigger than the bottom. If we want to make it into a mixed number, we can simply do the division. We can say 36 divided by 8. 8 goes in 8, 16, 24, 32. Goes in 4 times, okay? With 4 left over. So technically, the mixed number is 4 and 4/8, that's negative, or negative 4 and 1/2. Because 4/8 and 1/2 are equivalent fractions, okay? So that is what c is going to equal. All right, number 6, which says 3q divided by 5 equals 15. So now we have a fraction here, okay? Now remember, when you have a fraction that is touching a variable, these are being multiplied together. But really it's saying if you multiply 3 times q and then divide it by 5, it's going to get 15. So look at the fraction that's touching the variable, and what you need to do is you need to, let me erase this so you can see, multiply by its reciprocal. What is the reciprocal of 3/5? It is what? Flip the fraction. We're going to multiply it by 5/3. And then this way, we're also going to multiply 15 by 5/3. Okay? Now, 5/3 and 3/5, the thing about reciprocals is when you multiply them together, you get 1. Okay? So this becomes 1 because it's 15 over 15. That's 1. So that kind of goes away when you say that q equals 15 times 5 divided by 3. This, if you put a 1 over it, we can cross cancel, right? Because you could divide by 3 and divide by 3 and get 5. And 5 times 5 is 25. And at the bottom, you really just have 1. So q equals 25. Now in this example, the variable is on the right side. So look at the variable that's touching y is 1/8. We ask ourselves, what is the reciprocal of 1/8? What is it? It is, flip it, it is 8 or 8 over 1. So you have to multiply both sides by 8 over 1. All right. When you multiply these together, again, they make 1. So I'm just going to go ahead and put y, okay, because that's 8 over 8. And let's do the multiplication of these fractions. 8 times 2 is 16 divided by 3. Again, an improper fraction. We can make it a mixed number by saying 16 divided by 3. We say 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. Okay, 15, 5. It's a Schoolhouse Rock song. Yeah? Okay. It's 5. And your remainder is 1. So really, 16 divided by 3 is 5 and 1/3. Okay? So either of those answers are acceptable. If you want to go the extra mile and make it a mixed number, that's great. Your last two examples are so easy, but before we start, we need to talk about something. Now, if I say negative 4a equals 48, okay, does that mean that negative 4 is being multiplied by a number to give me positive 48? Yes. You need to realize that when a coefficient and a variable touch, they are being multiplied. They're being what? Say it. Multiplied. Okay? So just think about this. Multiplication is like being married, right? You become, when two things become one term, all right? And if you don't want to be married anymore, what would be the inverse or the opposite of getting married? You get a divorce, right? And it just so happens that divorce starts with a D, and so does divide. So what do you think you're going to do to both sides to isolate the variable? You're going to divide. Now make sure that when you divide and there's a negative coefficient, that you divide by the negative coefficient. So in this case, we're going to divide both sides by negative 4, okay? Do not be tempted to add 4 to both sides. I've seen lots of people do that. It's a mistake. All right, now negative 4 divided by negative 4, when you have the same number at the top as the bottom, it becomes 1. So A equals 48 divided by negative 4. Now do not forget our friend Bob, who got beat up at school. And when I asked him why, he said, well, that's because I did not remember that a positive divided by a negative is negative. So you got to make sure your answer is negative. And how many times does 4 go into 48? 4 times what is 48? If you want to do the long division, because you don't remember, and quite frankly, neither do I, I'm going to divide by 4. 4 goes into 4 one time, and then 4 goes into 8 2 times. So it's 12. Of course it's 12. Yes, it's 12. And it is not just positive 12, but it's negative 12. So A equals negative 12 here. Let's do one more. You have Mr. 12 and Miss T, they got married, and when you multiply them together, they give you negative 132. Now, Miss T wants to be a single lady. You got to isolate the variable, right? All the single ladies. So what do you have to do to both sides? You have to divide by what? Who do you want to get rid of? You want to get rid of Mr. 12. She wants to divorce him, right? Okay, so you divide both sides by 12. Great. And when you do that, 12 divided by 12 is 1. And I want you to make a 1 right through it. So you know that that's 1. You're left with T. Now she's single. What is the answer to negative 132 divided by 12? Okay? If you are not sure about your 12s, it is 11, right? But it's not just 11, it is negative 11. All right? Hope this was helpful. And some of these are on your homework. I think they will be. So make sure you watch this video again if you need some help.